So, hello, everyone who's here with me this morning, or whatever time you're here with me. I'm here 10 o'clock Sunday mornings Eastern Time, US Eastern Time, for a short introduction and meditation together, about a 12-minute sit. My name is aLex Levin. You're here through Sun and Moon Yoga Studios portal, and my little dog is nearby. Sometimes he's making sounds while we are together. So I'd just like to spend a couple minutes introducing my theme. When we sit in meditation, the positioning of the body. So I start with what the ground is, the kind of code word for how we get our seat just right, how we feel the support underneath us, and how we sense the solidness of our own body and the ground. And within that are the various parts, how we position our legs, whether we sit on a chair or on the floor, and what cushioning you might have underneath you. I've got some support under one of my legs. How you might sit with your back up against the wall or in a chair. And also how we position our hands, palms up, palms down. I place my hands sort of in the lap in a mudra. I talked about that recently. And I have mentioned recently our eyes, what we do with our eyes. For a long time, for most of my life meditating, I closed my eyes, and I find this very helpful. Very helpful to the going inward, to the distinction, making the distinction between what I'm sensing outside and what I'm sensing inside. Not necessarily to escape what's outside, although that sometimes was part of my purpose. And these days, I practice in a more Zen meditation way with my eyes just very slightly open, gazing downward. It's been a learning process, and it's an ongoing process. Of course, our body is different. All parts of our body is different every time we land on the cushion, even if it's several times a day. From moment to moment, our body is changing. And it's been so interesting on a couple levels, many levels, but a couple levels of my eyes. First, it was even given whatever pointers I was given, how exactly how is it supposed to be? Sometimes I've been told the gaze is your eyes are you barely focused. Just the eyes are so slightly open, not focused. You're unfocused actually, but how much that is kind of like they're almost closed. Anyway, we find that, and you find how to make it so that it's as quiet as possible. When we start to feel when we play with this open-eyed meditation, and you can, and it's all this is also true for the eyes closed, that you can sense the kind of movement or uh, something's happening in the eyes. Like the eyes, even if they're closed, they may be gazing downward or upward. There may be a little jitteriness in the eyes sometimes. Some of the really, to me, interesting things I've noticed about my eyes is that um, the left eye usually will be sort of more open and looking, almost even if I've got my gaze downward, my eye has a bigger sense to it. And my right eye can be more downward and quiet. It feels like I'm a Picasso painting or something. I just didn't know I could feel that difference in my eyes. Another thing I've had happen to me in meditation, was it my right eye? My right eye would often start watering. It was almost like what we call in yoga a kriya, a cleansing that would happen. And I've thought sometimes it was some irritant, pollen or something, but it happens. It's not happening as much anymore. It seems like a phase I was going through. Occasionally, it still happens, and then sometimes it's both eyes, but it was primarily. I think it was mostly in my. I can't remember now if it was mostly the right eye or left eye. Anywho, that's part of the tools for vision is our eyes, right? Our eyes and what we do with them in meditation, or how we observe them as well. It's part of what we're experiencing, and what you may start to notice also with your eyes. Um, Maybe this is with practice, as I'm noticing that my eyes get quieter and quieter, or I can notice if there sort of is a busyness in the eyes. And it might be reflecting the state of my whole nervous system, of my mind, of my emotions. Another aspect, and this is more of what Joy Harjo, this poet laureate that I've listened to in the interview with Krista Tippett on Being, this past week's interview, she mentions tools for vision, and that poetry, I think she talks about as poetry as being one of the tools we have for vision, and our observing and how we prepare and reflect and see outside of our memories that we can be observing. And that's part of what meditation, she talks about how this the value of being still, sitting still and observing, listening, watching. She has a great story about how she watches where a thought comes from. After she gets done with a spinning class, she has a thought about, and she surprises herself with this thought that she wants a donut, and she hadn't had a donut in a really, really long time. Anyway, listen to it and find out the rest of that story. So, tools for vision, part of it is this tool of sitting here, of sitting quietly. Another tool that I plan to use later today, just for inquiry about a question in my mind, in my life right now, is I'm going to get out my paper and colored pencils or markers, and play with some visual art, to play with just wandering in a different route than in the linear cognitive route. So let's dive into that tool of sitting still. And so make sure, you might have been doing that as I talked, ensure that your seat is comfortable, that it can be steady, that you have all the support you need. We start with a bell and a bow. You certainly can be lying down. It's a different energy in lying down, a different sort of receptivity. It can be a little more toward the sleepy side. And so, but that may be what you need. You may need that fuller support of your whole body. So please do indulge in that if you need. Thank you for being here with me today. And so this bell and bow is the opening bookend of our practice. And then we place our hands where we may have decided a little while ago, or maybe it takes a moment to place the hands and see, maybe this is not where I want to be today. And just feel palms down on the legs can be very, very grounding, warming. Palms up on the legs, the backs of the hands on the legs can be cooling and receptive, a little more opening upward. And then I often start with eyes closed, just all in this phase of bringing myself more and more to the present moment, bringing attention to here, now. I've skipped over sort of the grounding of the pelvis, legs, and receiving the support coming up from earth, but do include that. And the sense of the central channel, the spine, the upward lift, and the downward grounding of the spine. You can sense that. A stake into the ground. This energetic river of light in the center of our being. And in positioning the hands, the arms are not dead heavy, but there's an aliveness, so the shoulders can be relaxed and open across the upper heart, and shoulders relax down. And there's a conversation in this setting up the body, that it's not just a forcing the body into a shape, but listening and slight invitational movements and responses, and aligning with this field of gravity that we are held by as well, supported by. And if you choose to join me in the opening of the eyes, you need not, eyes closed is fine. But either way, when we bring our attention to the eyes, we can also kind of notice if our head is on straight. The head just at center, not tilted down, not tilted back, but just right, perched over the heart, which is perched over the pelvis. And the gaze downward, if you're sitting, is just a little ways in front of you to where just to the ground. You're not really looking at the patterns, but sort of beyond or just short of them. So I lean lightly onto the familiar mantra, a triptych of ground, sound, breath. Ground is all this arranging, landing of the body to to our still place. And sound might include, it's really a code word for space around. And all that is coming to us, that gravitational field that is here for us. The sounds around us, the light, the temperature and relative humidity. And if you've got your eyes open, or even if you don't, just the patterns that you see that are there in that field of vision, but you're not really focused on them. And in eyes closed, there are sometimes blotches or different color awarenesses. Light even comes through the eyelids. We let attention be more diffuse, even though it's also noticing specifics, but it becomes diffuse as if to move into that boundless, formless awareness, to yield into that. And breath. Maybe the belly can relax a bit more to receive and release the breath. Perhaps more and more sensing that possibility of resting into, resting as awareness. If you've chosen to have eyes open that little bit with me today, you might close them now and just notice again the eyes and bring the palms together, right and left. Duality, finding the midline so easily. Bowing the bookend to close our practice. And a gesture, a symbol that you feel what that bow is for you, for us. So perhaps tools for vision is what we do. So the stillness of meditation, the pondering, the poetry writing, the opening out from the more left brain, the more logical, analytical ways that we go about most of our day. And that's all good. But sometimes to enter more into the wholeness and freedom that's available for us that we all know is there because we have our ways of seeking it. Um, uh, that it's a kind of homecoming for us. And to make some time, and begin to notice I actually hadn't, confession here, I hadn't sat on my own cushion probably the last 4 days. I didn't get in my meditation. But this practice becomes something that we have that boundless awareness, our essence more available to us. And as I was walking with my dog, just consciously took a moment to see in that same way, like to look, to stop the whatever I was listening to on my device, and just to look and see for a few moments. And there's a wholeness, as Joy Harjo said something about. I forget what the context was, but there's when we see all its distinct parts, and sometimes we're trying to make sense of them, but there this way when we lean back into wonder, into resting as awareness, we see that there's the harmonious interwovenness of things, and there's a feeling that goes with it of our belongingness, of our own self, a different perspective, a fresh perspective of who we are and our place in all this. So I think maybe I've heard that from my teachers in different ways. I'm sharing it to you from my experience, and maybe it will resonate for you. So have a really wonderful week and life, and enjoy your life. And I'll see you back here. Those of you who can join me live next Sunday. What would that be? The 23rd or so. Check out all our offerings on the Sun and Moon YouTube channel and on sunandmoonstudio.com, and live at the studios too lately. Ciao, ciao.